Welcome to a webinar about fossil fuel ad bans. We are starting out at the Klimakultur office in Vang in Valdres in Norway. My name is Julie Forkammer, and I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alan, also in Klimakultur. Looking forward to this exciting conversation.
We will soon start out the webinar with the first guest, who is Charlotte Braat, who works for Reclame Fossielvrij, or fossil-free advertising, as it's called in English. And she will tell us more about the ad bans they have been working on in, both in Netherlands, but also all over the world. So before we start the webinar, Alan, what do you hope to learn this hour? What's your expectations to what we're going to talk about?
I think it's really like the two guests that we have invited are really inspiring because they have been working on fossil ad bans in concrete cases. And I think there is a lot to learn for Norwegian politicians and everyone that is keen to do something similar in Norway. So I'm looking forward to like having a close to a playbook and on how to make it happen.
You mentioned a second guest, and the second guest is Anna Jonsson, who works with the New Weather Institute in Sweden, and she knows a lot about the fossil fuel ad bans in Stockholm and in Gothenburg, so we're going to hear more about that as well. And this has been recorded, and we will publish it on YouTube also afterwards. So,
what do you want to learn, Julia?
I think just the idea of a fossil fuel ad ban feels really, really remote for us living in Norway. And I'm happy to learn from people who've been working on this subject for years, because what is a fossil fuel ad ban, and what is fossil fuels in this connection, and how can you do it, and what is it? So with that notion, I'd just like to say that people can ask questions or share comments in the comment section, and they can also share links. And I think we have both Norwegian and international viewers, so we are open for all, for all perspectives into this. But with that, I'd like to welcome Charlotte. Hi.
Hey, hello. Can you
Hi.
hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you and see you fine. Thank you, and welcome to this webinar. Would you like to start off with a short introduction about yourself and what is Reclame Fossielvrij? And
Yes. Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very happy to be here. So my name is Charlotte. I'm based in the Netherlands. I'm a campaigner with Reclame Fossielvrij, or fossil-free advertising in English. I've been doing this work now for almost 3 years. So as our name is already saying, our aim is to ban fossil advertising in the Netherlands, but also more generally, globally, just like how tobacco ads are also banned in most countries in the world. Yeah.
Great.
so tell me, why do we need a fossil fuel ban? What do you think a fossil fuel ad ban is? How do you define it in your organization?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think maybe it's good to first start with the definition, then it also becomes more clear, like why is this important to us? So first of all, maybe it's good to say that everyone, like there's different possibilities to define it. It depends on several factors, I would say, what the good definition is. On cultural, like per country, it can be very different, but also per political situation, I'd say. But we have like a bit of a standard definition that includes two types of advertising. And one of them is advertising from the fossil fuel industry themselves, so the companies that really take it out of the ground, so Shell or Equinor or BP. And this is, I think it's clear because they take out oil and gas out of the ground, and they have also have a very strong track record of not making real changes to renewables. I mean, we see a lot of ads that they are doing small projects, but this is really not adding up. Especially not seeing that we're now in 2025 already, and they're still, mostly exploring also for new oil and gas resources. So this is an industry that we say actually they should not be allowed to make any ads at all. And this we compare very much with the tobacco industry, because also here they thought maybe first we should just ban advertising of the product, so maybe like the cigarettes. But then the tobacco companies were like, well, we can still make ads for lighters and other products that are related to smoking and still have our logo everywhere. So, and this of course still reminds people of smoking, and it has the same effect. So that's why we have learned from this example and say like there needs to be a comprehensive ad ban for these industries that we know are misleading. They are not changing to renewables. Then the second category of advertising that we think should be included in a fossil ad ban is for the products that use most fossil fuel and that have also, there's at this moment not really a good alternative for using fossil fuels for these products. So then you have to think of flights, of fossil-based cars, cruise trips, these kind of things. These are the products that we as individuals can buy, but we cannot really understand what the societal effect is of these individual choices. And as governments, it is the task of the government to protect societal values, to protect health as well. And these products also cause a lot of air pollution, which is very bad for our health, next to, of course, enhanced climate breakdown. And it's also, I think with these products, it's maybe even more clear that while we all know we need to move away from fossil fuel use, these products are actually glamorizing, hyping up, normalizing, extra use of these products that we need to phase out. So that's, the two categories of ads that we are mostly targeting. And on the one hand, you could say they are misleading us. They are not telling us the full story of what this product or what this industry is actually doing to our planet. And on the other hand, they are also normalizing the use of ever bigger cars, ever more flying. I guess you can also imagine that maybe you are like a green citizen and you're like, you know what, I don't want to do flying anymore. But you see ads for this all around you. Like subconsciously, you're still going to think, this is so normal. Everyone does it because I see it everywhere. And it makes you less inclined also to take steps yourselves. And the other way around, the industry is also not pushed to come up with more sustainable ways of travel, promoting those, because it's still allowed for them to promote the thing that is now still cheapest, for example, flights, while travel companies could also promote travel by train, for example. This is kind of what we are aiming for to include in a fossil ad ban. And because of these two things, basically. So the raising of emissions and also the misleading character of many of these ads.
So we'll soon get to hear you talk more about the fossil fuel ad bans in Amsterdam and The Hague. Mm-hmm. But I think I haven't thought about this issue that much until not too long ago, but the point that advertising works. The reason companies are doing it is, of course, because they want us to fly more, or they want to protect their interests, or so that's also like a point I think I have to think more about. They're not just doing it just to do it. It does drive our behavior. But Reclame Fossielvrij has been important drivers in the fossil fuel ad ban, first in Amsterdam and in The Hague. Mm-hmm. And it would be helpful to hear more about how did it start? How was the processes? What is it?
Yes. Yeah. So that's, I think our group became most known in 2020 when Amsterdam was the first city to ban fossil advertising or I should say actually that Amsterdam was the first city to adopt a motion that said that they want to ban fossil advertising. And 1 year earlier, so in 2019, the group that was kind of like the predecessor of fossil-free advertising that we have now won against a children's festival that was organized and sponsored by Shell. And this was a huge festival in The Hague. The city where our government also sits. And a lot of school children go there with their school, with their class. They learn about technology, all kinds of fun things they can do, and everything has like a Shell logo attached to it. And this is maybe also
society.
Sorry?
This is like normal Norwegian society
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, please go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, and I think also, so not such a long time ago, it was also very normal here. And I should also add that these companies, and then in the Netherlands, especially Shell, they also still try to influence schools with sending them like educational material. And of course, teachers are almost always very overworked. So some of them are like, oh, great, I get this educational material. They don't think maybe too critically about it and use it. So I think this is also interesting to mention this festival because it broadens the scope maybe of what we see as advertising. And you just said, like, advertising, it really works. Mostly on the street when I talk with people about advertising in general or fossil advertising, like, oh, but yeah, I know there's advertising, but I don't see it. I'm not influenced by it, And maybe we all think of ourselves like this. But the thing is, advertising mostly influences on a subconscious level, right? So it is really hard for you as a person to know if and how. Well, I would say it's not if you are influenced by advertising, but more like how does it really affect you? And really the smartest creative people, psychologists, do work also for advertising companies. So and probably that's maybe also how they came up with this children's festival, because they did not only target children to learn about how great Shell is, but this festival actually won a lobby prize. And this kind of opened the eyes of the group that was fighting this festival of like, it's actually a very weird and big form of advertising. And advertising is also a very big part of the lobby strategy that these companies use. So after a couple of years fighting this festival, it was eventually banned. And then indeed in 2020, Amsterdam became the first city to pass a motion. This was also not super easy because no one had done it before. There was not really like an example of how it should be done. So that we asked a lot of organizations in Amsterdam to sign like a letter to say like, please urge also your city to take this step. And the motion at that time was something like we asked the city board to go into talks with the advertising company in the city, JCDecaux. They are also almost everywhere, and to ask them if fossil ads can be banned. So that was the first motion that got passed. That became quite big news. And it's funny that you also mentioned The Hague, because in The Hague we used actually a very different approach. Because we learned with Amsterdam and other cities that followed that just talking with the advertising company, they don't want to do it voluntarily. They don't want to, have, per city different things that they need to look into. They feel it maybe is bad for their revenue streams. Although there are many cities that already banned certain types of ads. For example, even London, which is a huge city that banned fast food advertising already also a couple of years ago, and they also did research into their revenue and it didn't drop. So we have all kinds of argumentation, but of course they're like, market-based companies. So they're like, no, we don't want to do it. So that's how we thought of, well, what are other ways that cities can implement such an ad ban? And in the Netherlands, it's possible for cities to write local laws. So that means that in the Netherlands, it's also possible to write or adjust a bit in the local law that is about advertising. And in the Netherlands, can also be about the content of advertising. I'm saying this because it's not in every country like this, that municipalities have this power. So The Hague became actually the first city to ban fossil ads by law. And the biggest advantage of this is that many of the contracts that the city has with a advertising company, they run for 5 years, 6 years, maybe even 10 years. So you could, as a city, say, you know what, we are enthusiastic about this idea. We want to ban fossil ads, but we're still in this contract. We don't want to break it. That's very costly. That's understandable. So we will put it into the conditions for the next contract. So this is an option that is available also anywhere in the world, to my knowledge. So in the new contract, you can always say, as a city government, we make the rules here for how public space can be used. So we say in our public space, no fossil ads anymore. The downside is, of course, what I said, the contracts can run for 10 years still. Banning fossil ads feels a bit like step 0 when it comes to fighting climate change, because all what we're doing is not allowing extra promotion of extra fossil fuel use. So 10 years is a bit long. So that's why we urge The Hague to try out and be the first with a law. And actually, the law went into effect 1st of January this year. So there should not be any fossil ads now. They already said that they will not give out fines like the first couple of months to have like a transition period. But after that, there should be no fossil ads anymore in The Hague. So that's really, really exciting and good news.
Can I ask a question? I'm just wondering, like, when you have a new initiative in a new city, who's usually starting? Like, who do you usually communicate with in the beginning of a process?
Yeah, good question. So I think we have the advantage that it has already been around for a couple of years. So, and people have heard of Amsterdam, and now they also have heard of The Hague. The Hague has also been recently more in the news because the branch organization of travel companies wants to sue The Hague for the ad ban they put in place. So that's still to be continued. Either we as a campaign team, we know that already 5 or 6 political parties in the Netherlands are quite positive about this. They have it in their party program, and another couple of political parties are also almost always supportive of the idea. So what we mostly do is when we contact a city ourselves or like a municipality ourselves, or we target one, then we look just like what is the political situation there, let's say, like who is in the city board and with which parties do you have a majority, and would these be parties that we expect to be more positive about this idea. So that's maybe a first thing that we look at, and then we work very often with either the Green Party. We have also an animal party in the Netherlands, which is also green. There's also the Social Democratic Party that has this point in their national election program, and we have also I think maybe quite unique situation that the Social Democrats and the Green Party are now kind of in a merging situation in the Netherlands. That doesn't mean that in every city they vote in the same way. That's also interesting with local politics, that the party on the national level can say one thing, but local politicians might be like, I don't care about this, or I do care about this, as opposed to the national party line. So that's always interesting. And if possible, we also like to work with people who actually live there and who can, for example, tell something about there's also, I don't know if this is the same in Norway, but we also in local politics have a lot of local parties as well. And from the outside, it's very hard to see like what do they really vote? Is it like, what is their political identity? And most of the times when we think like, okay, well, this city is interesting to us, we just reach out to one of the council members from one of the parties that we work a bit more with, or maybe someone that we maybe know via some contacts. And then we just try to arrange like a first meeting or a Zoom call to discuss like maybe what is the things that they are working on currently in their municipality, if they have earlier policies on maybe air pollution or related to climate. And then we, of course, also present our case and hear from them if they're interested and how they, if they expect difficulties and with which parties and with what argumentation. So we can already, discuss with them the many used counter arguments and what they can use for that. And we have also resources like an example text that you can use in the motion. Then, of course, they are free to adjust to the local circumstances. And what we also often do is when it actually gets discussed in the council, that we ourselves or we find people who want to speak as citizens in the council. So I don't know how it works in Norway, but in the Netherlands, if there's a topic that you want to say something about, you can just sign up and you get like 3 minutes as a citizen to say what you think about it. And recently, we've also had many healthcare professionals and doctors go to city councils and speak, their mind on a fossil ad ban, because it was also doctors and healthcare professionals that fought for a tobacco ad ban. And they also understand and realize that not only climate change is a very big health threat, it's actually the biggest health threat of this century. Also, air pollution is already causing so much harm at this moment. Actually, more deaths globally than smoking per year. So that's also, something that we've learned with experience, that political parties who are maybe a bit on the edge on this topic, they tend to listen more to people with such a background than to people like us, who they also can just be like, oh, well, there's these activists again, So that's also something that, we try to take into account. Or, for example, if we know there's a Christian-focused party that we need for a majority, we try to look for someone in the Christian community with a green heart that wants to speak on this issue. But we always discuss this with the council member, because they are the ones that need to put up the motion. They are the ones that know how their council normally functions. They know that they have talked with this party about that topic, and they have all these relations already. So we're always there to support the council member in any way that they think is good.
Yes, thank you, Charlotte. It hasn't occurred to me before now, but maybe that's why the electric car has been such a success in Norway, because then we can remove our air pollution and we don't have to think about what our oil production is doing to health, because we are okay here with that. 2 quick questions before we're moving on and inviting in Anna from Sweden as well. One thing is, what's the normal arguments you're being met with against this? And also, what does the ad bans in Amsterdam and The Hague, which businesses or sectors are they covering?
Yeah, good question. So maybe first to go to your last question. So in Amsterdam, as I said, the first motion in 2020 was to talk with the advertising companies, and they said, no, we're not going to do it. Then we also urged Amsterdam to also come up with a law that's like this law proposal that we also now have in The Hague. And they have, it has been filed, but it has not been discussed yet. So in Amsterdam, if you go there, you will see fossil ads still, which is very sad, because everyone knows it as like the first city that banned fossil ads. But in the metro, there's like in the tube, there are some types of ads that they did get to ban on a voluntary basis. So that was good. But I have to say that nowhere else did we get voluntary basis ad bans. That was more of a one-time thing, I think. In The Hague, it's good that you mentioned this, because in The Hague, it only covers the products that I said. So in the beginning, I described like what we include in the fossil ad ban, and they did not include the fossil fuel industry. Mostly, short answer is to get a majority for this. Already a bit far-reaching, because as a first city with a law proposal, so it covers like the flights, cars, cruises, and that's also why the holiday industry is now coming to haunt The Hague with a court case that they have already said multiple times in the media that they're going to do, but still they haven't taken the steps to actually announce it. So we are preparing, but also a bit like, well, maybe it's not going to happen. And your other question was about the many used counter arguments. So I think the first one that you hear a lot is some kind of variation on freedom of speech, or like I don't know, thought police, or yeah, I don't know. Some right-wing parties really go very far in making accusations, but I think the freedom of speech argument is, I guess, used a lot by different groups to mean very different things. And I think in this case, it's just very important to remember that the freedom of commercial speech is not like the same as freedom of speech for you and I to say whatever we think. And it's also these freedoms of commercial speech needs to be balanced with the freedom of health and a safe environment for us to live in. And when it comes to tobacco ads, we also, as a society, made the decision that the freedom of health and the freedom of a clean environment is more important to us than the freedom of speech of these commercial companies. I mean, no one is saying, what about the freedom of speech of tobacco companies, right? So, and if we have this track record of fossil industry companies not changing their business at all, just like playing in the margins a little bit with some green projects so they can basically advertise about it, then I think we should also make the conclusion that they are just misleading us and actually slowing down the transition because, you know, people will see ads from Shell on windmills and be like, you know, actually they are doing the right thing. We don't need to worry so much. Why should I vote for a green party? Even everything will be fine. I'm exaggerating a bit, but like for people who are not into it, that's of course the subconscious message that these greenwashing ads want to give. So I would say the freedom of speech is one, and the second one is like, is it legally possible? And of course, we have consulted with legal experts on this, many different of them, and also many municipalities in the Netherlands have already also asked for reports, like that external organization writes a legal report on this. And time after time, it basically has the same conclusion, like it is legally possible. You just have to make a good definition. And so some parties and some cities, they cling on to this, like, oh, it's possible, but it's very, very difficult. So maybe we should not go into it. But then I also think with every policy that you write, with every law that you write, you need to write like a good definition, right? It's not as if this is only the case for this piece of policy. So I think legally possible, yes, it's legally possible. Of course, like with this law, it's one step further we're taking. We will have to see if the court will uphold it. We are very confident that it will be. But so far we have, also in other places in the world, there, for example, in Sweden, maybe Anna can say more about this. The city of Stockholm was also, drawn to the court for something related to fossil ads, and they also won. So it's not, I would say these arguments are used a lot, but the evidence there is really points to the contrary. Yeah.
Thank you, Charlotte. And I actually think we'll take a question right now before we start with Anna, if that's okay with you, Anna. And it's from Dickon Bonvik Stone. I'll show the question here. I hope that's okay with you, Dickon. Dickon has also a podcast called Communicating Climate Change. He's based in Oslo, and I recommend his podcast. But he's writing about how can we also engage those stakeholders who are placing the ads and making money placing the ads, and also the creative agencies who are putting those ads and campaign together. How can we work? Yeah, what's your experience working with those kind of actors?
Yeah. Thank you for your question. I think first to start maybe with the advertising, like the creative part of the work. So the creative industries that work on ads. So there's multiple initiatives that are not ours, but that you can look up that are basically, most of them are around like pledges that a creative company can take and say, like, we do not take fossil fuel clients anymore. So this is this is a way that some organizations like Clean Creatives or Creatives for Climate are engaging with these creative industries to actually pull out their creative brains and resources from this industry to work with better clients. And the other question on the platforms and location and channels. So I think on the one hand, with municipalities, we can only work on the places in public space, right? So the municipality can decide on what is being shown in public space. And then it comes to these, well, it's just a handful of international, like mega companies that have these ad screens. So YCDeco is one, Global, Clear Channel are basically the biggest. And this is really their industry, to go to municipalities who are always money strapped and say like, well, we know that you want to provide your citizens with this service, which is like a bus shelter. We can provide it for you. We will do all the maintenance. We will also put up ads there. We will get some money for it. You will also get some money for it. Everyone happy. So these companies are very clever in really misusing this little niche or something. Because, for example, in Belgium, I've seen this as well. YCDeco is also having bikes that like from a bike sharing platform, also from them, and it has ads on them. And they know cities want to provide these kinds of services like benches, all kind of things that they think, we can put ads on them. And for me, the public space is really the place that I feel most frustrated about when it comes to ads, because you can really not go around it. It's not like you can shut off public space or not use public space. Well, you can kind of, I don't know, turn off the television when advertising comes on. So that's one of the places that we work in a lot. And these advertising companies, to our like experience, but also the experience of other groups around Europe who have been also working on anti-advertising work for a long time, is just not good. They're just really, really only focused on making more money and just selling more of our attention and of our public space to the big companies that want to buy these ads. There's also, of course, other platforms with ads, newspapers, television, as I just said, radio, online. And I think for the online, that is something that maybe is a bit hard for a country to look at. Maybe this should be done in a broader sense on EU level, for example. So there's also some EU parliamentarians that we know that are active on this topic, actually. Newspapers. I will also ask maybe Anna to say something about the Swedish newspapers that already banned fossil ads, actually. So there are some newspapers out there that did so. And it can be done. In the Netherlands, we're also trying to get the bit more green newspaper to ban fossil ads. And actually they want to, but their publishing house is saying no. And this already very quickly can roll into a discussion of, is it healthy that many of our newspapers are owned by these like billionaire families? I don't know how it is in Norway, but in the Netherlands, almost all newspapers are owned by just two companies, and they are just from two very wealthy families. And they just say, well, no, we don't want to ban fossil ads. But you see that more and more people are also writing to their newspaper and saying, like, I cannot really take this seriously if you write about climate crisis, which I really like that you write about it. I find it important. That's why I buy your newspaper. But then on the next page, there's literally like an advertising for flight or an SUV, So it's also damaging like the journalistic quality of such a newspaper. And I think more and more are becoming aware of it, and also more and more taking steps on it. I think just the last thing I want to say is that if you want to know more about all these successes and developments that are going on in this field of advertising and fossil advertising, we made this website called worldwithoutfossilads.org, where we try to update every couple of weeks anything that happened in this field. So yeah, I really recommend you take a look over there, and thank you very much for your attention. Yes, thanks.
Thank you so much. Anna, you've been waiting a bit. We'd like to introduce our next guest. Hello, Anna.
Hello.
So welcome to this webinar, and what a wonderful bunch of talented people. So Alan, are you learning stuff so long?
Yeah, it's really, really good. And it's very concrete. I hope people are taking notes.
We are taking notes, and we will publish this on YouTube and afterwards as well. So we will keep the good things. Anna, would you like to introduce yourself and how you've been involved in Sweden with the fossil ad bans there?
Yes, I'd love to. And first, thank you for organizing, and thank you, Charlotte. It's always so inspiring to hear all the brilliant work that's been done and is being done in the Netherlands, mainly by you, Reclame Fossielvrij. So just short about my background. I've been like the roots in the environmental movement in Sweden, and then been working many years, maybe too many, in environmental politics for the Green Party, mainly in the parliament, but also in the government when we had another government. But even with that government, I often felt very frustrated and like always working with compromises. And I just started thinking like, but where is change really happening? It's not in these political corridors, that I'm sure, even though they're very necessary, but it's not where change comes from. So I just felt I need to go back to my roots and find another way of working with these issues. And so I called Andrew Sims up, who's working with the advertising campaign in the UK, and who's an old friend, and just said like, okay, do you want a sister think tank in Sweden? And he said, yes. So that's where it all came from. And I succeeded to get on board one of my dearest colleagues, Gunnar Lind, from the Green Party. So that's, and actually now we've been doing this for almost 4 years, like time flies. And one of the campaigns that New Weather in UK was working on and is working on was the advertising campaign. And we just thought this is something for us. If we want to influence people's minds, then we have the campaign we want to work with. So it's interesting, just like looking back a few years, because when we started off, like no one knew about the concept fossil ads in Sweden. It was really like working from zero, even though of course there's an environmental debate, but like this issue didn't exist really. Even though actually there was, of course, I must say, since thanks to your work, Charlotte, a few municipalities where politicians, like mostly green politicians, had put forward motions. So like motions in the city of Stockholm and Gothenburg, thanks to the Amsterdam news. So really that made a huge difference. But now, like 4 years later, we have, it's not as good as, I mean, you would like to, but at least we have one decision in the region of Stockholm to have an ad ban in public transport from 2026, and which was the first decision in Sweden of such a ban, of a political organization, which was a very big success, even though the decision in itself, like the definition of the ad ban, is not very good, for example, or not good at all, because it doesn't include air travel ads, which is like crazy, because that's really, when you go to the public transport in Stockholm, that's what's like really up your face. It's very aggressive advertising for air travel. But then like the really big news is that just the other week we knew it was like about to happen, but we didn't know when, and we didn't know the quality of the ban. So it's like the equivalent of the region of where Gothenburg is situated is Västtrafik, the Västra Götalandsregionen, actually very close to Norway. And they have even more progressive political parties, more red-green. So their ban is much, much better, and that it's not a law, unfortunately, but it's like in upcoming, do you say procurements? Is that the word? Upphandling, yeah. There will be an ad ban that includes air travel, fossil fuel dependent vehicles, and yeah, if anyone is interested, we also have a blog post on that in English and Swedish where we can share.
Anna, a quick question here. We can hear you clearly, but your picture freezes sometimes. But we hear you loud and clear, so that's fine.
Okay, good. I could change room because I know this room sometimes. Should I? If you want a small transport, I can talk meanwhile. It's not a big transport. Maybe it's better. I'll do it.
I can use the time.
You can see the view of Stockholm. Do you? Yeah.
I can show a quote in the meantime.
Okay, maybe this is better. So I can just, but then very short about the situation in the city of Gothenburg and the city of Stockholm, which is not as wonderful as, well, they have decisions, which is very good. So it's different with the city and the region, of course. And the cities of Gothenburg and Stockholm are investigating ad bans, but actually they have some legal issues. And that's so, we really don't know where they are at. And it seems to be a national thing because there's a law of order that is touched upon whenever it's public space. And it's tricky, and we're in dialogue with these, but we really don't know. I think in the end, it will be like, how strong is the political will? Will they be willing to challenge these? Because as you say, Charlotte, like this always possibility to find ways. And yeah, so I think what we need to do now is like put even more pressure on them and try to make it in. Yeah. So that was very short. I mean, I could talk much longer, but very short.
I think we'll get back to that another time as well. But thank you, Anna. I have a quote here from the CEO of Västtrafik from their press release last week, and I'll just like to show it here. And he says, it does not feel reasonable to show advertising for things that clearly contribute to negative climate impact. Lars Backström, CEO, Västtrafik. And I think I'd actually ask you, Erlend, first to comment on that, because what is the chances of a Norwegian leader of such a company to go out publicly and state something like that?
Feels very far-fetched from all the conversations that we have, at least with any company or any cultural or institution or politician, I would say. But it's like the message is crystal clear. Like it's really good for their communication. It's impossible to misunderstand. And there's a lot to learn from it, like, because it communicates really well with the community. So I like it a lot. And I really hope that like people can get motivated by that kind of messages, although it feels, maybe for a Norwegian, it feels like you're talking against the state or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it's not we don't see those kind of messages in Norway very often. Yeah.
No, and also I think, let's say that someone on the West Coast in that similar kind of position would go out and say something like that in a region where the fossil fuel industry is huge, tourism is huge, cruise ships business is huge. It's just I don't know, Anna and Charlotte, do you have any recommendations to how can we create brave climate leaders like Lars Backström from Västtrafik in Norway? How do we, or maybe in the comment section, if anyone has any ideas or reflections on how can we move along?
Shall I go first, or do you have an idea? Yeah, I think in the Netherlands, it's not 100% the same, of course, with Equinor, but we used to have Shell also, like, yeah, almost everywhere. They would sponsor like every museum, like a lot of, cultural and educational stuff. And I think this is a group also part of the fossil free movement in the Netherlands, fossil free culture. They've done a lot of like very creative, and also the public was very engaged with these actions because they look very pretty. so they did these actions in museums to kind of show people what it is that Shell is doing and what kind of money they are basically accepting to fund these museums. And I think they did like a great job there, because there's only like 2 maybe museums left in the whole of the Netherlands that are still sponsored by Shell, while before it was like all of them were sponsored by Shell. And I think already in 2020 they celebrated that the whole Amsterdam Museum Square, so this includes the Van Gogh Museum and the Rijksmuseum and like many big museums that are there, became fossil free. And I think these types of creative actions always do very well with the public. I think culture institutions maybe view themselves as well as a bit more progressive than many other institutions. So I think, to me, what Lesson speaks of this work that they've been doing, mostly also before even the Amsterdam motion got passed, is that what is really like, what can be a first mover in your country, and what can be these progressive first movers that can show that it can be done. And maybe it seems like a small thing if just, I don't know, a green newspaper says we're not going to publish fossil ads anymore, or if a small but progressive council says we're not going to do this anymore. But that's where the snowball kind of starts rolling, right? Because so if there's a first mover, then others are also willing to take the risk to be like, you know what, they actually got a lot of good press from this, so maybe we should consider it as well. So I think that would be my main thing. And I think in the Netherlands it worked really well with these museums and culture institutions, and with how the group kind of worked on that. In Norway it could be something else, but yeah, that's what came to mind for me.
An interesting part about Norway is, since so much of our fossil fuel sector and companies are state-owned, to talk about these things, you're kind of, when the state is functioning as a part of the oil lobby, the game is quite different here. We also see with our major arts and cultural institutions that it's the state that is deciding who are on the boards. So we have, like, at our National Museum, the chair of the board, Maria Moraeus Hansen, comes from oil and has worked in the oil business for decades. And the same with Festspillene in Bergen, where Torhild Vidvei, who is the chair of the board there, is also chair of Vår Energy, one of our biggest oil companies. So it's like they don't have that possibility to move on these matters, because the board is chosen by the state, and there's more oil people on those boards than there's environmental people who will give permission to the big art institutions to make those decisions. A quick question to you, Erlend, because you were in a debate a year ago with Festspillene in Bergen and the Ski Association. And what did they say about the Equinor sponsorships?
No, they were very clear that they didn't see a future without fossil fuel ads, like the opposite of what the message I thought they would bring to stage. So they saw a future together with the fossil fuel companies, and didn't
Why?
want. Yeah, that's a really good question.
I understand that, of course, but
yeah, I think they saw them as really good partners, to be honest. They didn't see any they see them as an important part or important brick of a future green transition or something. They believe in the story from the fossil fuel companies that they hear in the boardrooms. So I think that's part of it. And that's just it's not been a huge discussion in Norway. So that was kind of one of the early debates, and then we just need to have a lot more conversations about these topics in Norway.
Thank you, Erlend. Back to you, Anna. Are there many people like Lars Backström from Västtrafik in Sweden?
Well, it's kind of unique for us as well, I must say, that this, and I also really appreciated his quote, because it was so, it was brilliant. But just some thoughts on how to move forward. Like, I think what you're doing right now, just to put forward the issue, and like, because once you have opened your eyes for this issue, you just see it everywhere. I think just making people aware of this as a very powerful tool. Yeah, exactly. What was that? Was that your report? No.
No,
No.
it was the ad, Equinor ad that is running in one of the big newspapers in Norway.
All the papers.
So I think that's like one important thing that you already do. And then I just want to mention that very small example that comes from like that collaboration that we started off with you, Klimakultur, and that you made your report. I don't remember the name of it. What's the name of your report? The Equinor.
What's Norwegian energy culture?
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. And I just like saw that as an opportunity to share some good news. So I contacted a few journalists that I know are interested in this issue, and then Dagens Etc., who's that newspaper that has banned fossil fuel ads since a long time ago. They are, of course, interested in the issue. So they decided to write something about it. And they found, Julie, you advised them to write about a Lego competition that has been in the Technical Museum in Stockholm.
Where the children...
where they had these shirts on. And that article actually just, it's absurd that the kids had those on. And it was also like on the Swedish television, which there should not be any ads. And then like it was an article in left-wing, small, I mean, it's not a big paper. And then just like a few weeks later, in another context, like the PR manager of the museum just said, okay, we understand the issue. They didn't say like explicitly, we will look for a new policy, but you could read that between the lines. So it really, like, even those really small things has a great influence. So and I felt it the same when I was working within the government, like this big elephant, sometimes a small thing happens, like a butterfly outside, that can make the whole elephant start shiver. So very small things, and together.
Thank you, Anna. And also, if anyone has any comments or questions, we'd love to hear that as well. Charlotte, this summer, the UN General Secretary, Antonio Guterres, went out very publicly and said that all nations should implement a fossil fuel or ad bans.
Yeah.
Do you know what's happening around the world? Do you have any... Because it's not just the Netherlands and Sweden, is it?
No. And this is also part of the good news, I think. And I think it's also, by the way, very... This is, I think, also an angle that could be very strongly used, like the children's advertising, and that we also talked about earlier. Like, I think maybe people feel very strongly about that in a different way than maybe advertising for adults. But yeah, what is happening around the world? So I would say there's actually a lot happening around the world. And yeah, we have also organized conferences for our movement the last couple of years, since 2022. And you see that, more and more countries, more and more cities are banning fossil ads. In Ireland, for example, I was talking with someone from Ireland yesterday. They had last year 2 national laws proposed, or bills proposed. They were not accepted, but 2 different parties came with bills one day after another, basically, to ban fossil advertising. Antonio Guterres, as you said, also one of the directors of the WHO, has already spoken out her support for a fossil ad ban. And this maybe all seem very big and high level, but also, as we were just discussing, sometimes it's just like a small city or a small town, or like a small newspaper or a sports club, culture institution, universities that don't accept fossil money anymore. And I think one of the exciting things currently for us is that we are organizing a new conference for our movement in April in Hamburg, which is not super close maybe, but also closer maybe than the Netherlands for you. So would be nice to, we will invite you, of course, for this. And we chose Hamburg because there's a group there who is called Hamburg Werbevrij, and which means fossil free in German. And they are in this referendum process where they need to collect signatures from 5% of the voting population in Hamburg. And if they have done so, then there will be a referendum for almost all commercial advertising in Hamburg to be out of the city. So that's very, very big. Also seeing that Hamburg is one of the biggest cities of all of Europe. So that's one thing that's also very exciting, that this movement, if it's on fossil ads or like this more general anti-advertising movement, is really growing every day. Like almost every month I find out of another group that's also working on it, who has taken action against billboards being placed in their neighborhoods. And I think also intuitively, if you ask further to those people who say, well, ads, I am not influenced by them, blah, blah, blah. People also understand that, public space is for us as the public to use and not for commercial interests to just buy our attention. And I think this story is just, getting stronger. And also, I think also exciting is that more and more groups also outside of Europe are working on this. Like in Australia, there's a very big movement. In Canada, there's this Canadian Association for Doctors, actually, who took up this topic as a very big campaign topic. There's a very cool group in Argentina. In South of Africa, there's a group, Fossil Free South Africa, who are working on fossil ads as well. So, that's what really excites me, and to work with all these bright minds on this similar topic, even though we all have very different contexts, of course, that you also sketch out in Norway. Things are different. But I must say that also very often I find it the case that I come from a call with someone in Germany and in Italy and then maybe Australia, and I think that also a lot of things are similar. I think we can learn a lot from each other, and I think we will move together and have more successes in this snowball.
Thank you so much to Anna and Charlotte. Thank you for joining us today. And we're looking forward to keep on having this conversation in Norway. And also I think we're just starting to learn about it, how to speak about it, what is it, and if it policy-wise is difficult, what else can we do? So thank you to Charlotte and Anna, and we'll see you soon. And Alan, hey.
Hey.
Let's do an outro here from the Klimakultur offices. I'll just move over here because we also need some cuteness in our webinars. Let's see. And this is Luna. So, what takeaways do you have from this webinar?
I think there's a lot to learn from the examples that we have heard from, and it's very specific, and we will try to summarize it in an article and make it available for everyone to read for free. And then I hope there's people with interest, politicians or others, that in Norway can take the first few steps and maybe reach out to us, and we can engage with them and discuss and try to make it move forward together. So that's what I'm thinking right now. What's your thoughts, Julia?
Oh, I have many thoughts. And just for the concerned people watching, the dog is not dead. She's just very much asleep. It's not I haven't stuffed my dog. Yeah, woke her up. No, but also the health personal angle that Charlotte talked about with the medical expertise, bringing them into this discussion. We haven't done that a lot in Norway yet. And also, I heard someone talk about using the existing rules, because we do have quite a strict rules against advertising towards children, but it's not really implemented. That advertising and also through schools, that will deeply influence what children learns about ethics and morals is.
The wording is very, very clear in those laws. It's just that we are not mentioning them very often.
No.
Also, I think there's a huge like public acceptance around the ad ban on tobacco and betting in Norway. I'm not sure if there is anything to learn from it, but like just
Norway was the first country in the world, together with Finland, who banned the advertising for tobacco in 1975, and many countries followed after. So, but of course, at that point, Norway wasn't one of the world's biggest tobacco producers, so maybe that was easier than what we are working with.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's say thank you, and people contact us if you want to. This is topics we're going to work more on and learn more on in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.